Hello guys and welcome. Today we're gonna be talking about the Oathbreaker Paladin in the Summoner series. So, what is an Oathbreaker? An Oathbreaker Paladin is a paladin that goes against the tenets of his oath, whether that's protecting nature, devoting himself to the greater good. So the easier one to break is Oath of the Ancients and Devotion. So go with those ones. Now, if we don't know what the Summoner series is, it's a series where we create the biggest army of monsters possible, and we buff them and we make them the strongest monsters they can be. Okay guys, so let's go through the spreadsheet real quick. We will be getting the first 7 levels in Paladin. We choose our oath at level 1, then we get our fighting style at level 2, level 3 we get our class ability, at level 4 we're going to get an ability score increase, level 5 an extra attack, but what we really care about is the aura of protection and the aura of hate we get at level 6 and 7. Level 8, 9 and 10 we're going to go Warlock levels, we're going to go Great Old to get the Mortal Reminder. This is because we're not always going to be using our weapon, we're actually going to be going sometimes with ranged damage, and that has some reasoning to it. We're not going to be in the midst of battle all the time, so we need to be versatile. So then we're going to go Warlock level 2, we're going to get Devil's Sight and Agonizing Blast. And then at level 3 we're going to get Pact of the Blade. This will allow us to imbue our weapons with our charisma, because we need to max our charisma with this build. And then at level 11 and 12 you have to take 1 level in Wizard to boost your summons, and then you can get a 2nd level in Wizard to let's see, you're going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it can be another level in Wizard to get Portent or another useful Wizard ability that you like. Or you're going to get another level in Warlock to get your ASI, or another level in Paladin to get your ASI. I know we're not maxing our extra attacks and it's not going to be the most extra attacks that we can do, but of course there is a reason for it. So, what happens when you break your oath? As you can see, Karlak right here just broke her oath. She broke her oath because we killed a bunch of evil guys at Moonrise Towers, by the way. So, level 1 Oathbreaker. You get the class action Spiteful Suffering. You're never going to use this, it takes your action, it's not good. Anything that says action, you never want to use it, because you're going to be using your actions to actually do useful things. Frightening an enemy is less good than killing him. Can also control undead. If you ever encounter any at death, you can actually use this, and if it's a lower level than yours, you can actually summon, you can get an extra undead with your summon build. Then at level 7 you get the Aura of Hate, which you and any nearby friends and undead get an additional 5 damage dealt with melee weapons. So this boosts the damage of the monsters around you. So since you're going to be having a lot of monsters around you, this is going to be a good aura to have. Again, Aura of Protection gives you +5 to you and everybody near you. You can see some people, the monsters here are getting buffed. Aura of Protection, which means they have +5, well, equal to our charisma modifier to their saving throws. Now, it's also important to know that this item, Circle of Bones, is an item you should find with this class. It's an important item, and if you get it, you could even go full Warlock after the 7 levels of Paladin, because you no longer need to learn Animate Death another way. But what you actually want from it is this ability here. Allied undead within 20 feet are resistant to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage. Now, what does this mean? It means that you're going to be giving them Aura of Protection, so they're going to have a +5 to their saving throws, and they will have more damage, and they will also be resistant to physical damage. Alternatively, if you go Paladin of the Ancients, your aura is going to be giving them resistance to magical damage, which is also useful. So let's go through the build step by step. Okay, so we're gonna build an Ancients Paladin, and we've shown you how to break your oath, so we're good. So I recommend using these stats. The reason that we go for a high dexterity is that we're actually gonna be around our minions. So if our minions are not near the enemy and we can place ourselves optimally to not be in the front line, then we want to be able to use bows until we get our Eldritch Blast at later levels down the line. If you want to take a dip early in Warlock and go for strength, that also works. The fighting style is probably the biggest decision you have to make in this class right now. Usually you go with great weapon fighting style because it also rerolls the smite dice, but since we're going to be going with a rapier and it's not a great weapon, we want to go with defense. Alternatively, you could go with dueling to do that extra 2 damage. Not great, but not bad. Armor class is king. Okay, your prepared spells, you can use whichever ones you like. I like going for the smites. Just keep in mind that you can change this during the game, since you know all the paladin spells, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Just make sure you pick the proper abilities. So you desperately want to max your charisma with this class. The reason we do that is our aura of hate and our aura of protection scale very hard. On level 5 you get your extra attack, by the way. So our aura of hate and aura of protection scale very hard with your charisma. So when you have a high charisma, your minions will do 5 more damage if you have 5 charisma. If you have plus 5 modifier on charisma, your minions will do plus 5 more damage. If you have plus 2 modifier to your charisma, you might as well not get that aura because it's not going to make a big difference. Even though we're going to have a lot of minions, so it will make a difference. So at level 6 you get your aura of protection. Remember, you have to cast these spells these abilities when you learn them, and then you don't have to cast them again, but you have to cast them at least once so that they're activated. This is how Larian implemented it. So at level 7 you get your aura of protection, the aura of warding, and therefore you no longer need to take any more levels in Paladin. So now we'll switch to Warlock, and I would rather go for the Great Old One on this time, because fearing our enemies when we crit is going to be a pretty cool ability, where since we're going to be in the back line, temporary hit points are not going to be that important. Well, not in the back line, but positioning for damage for our allies, not for damage for ourselves. Then we go for command, agonizing blast, devil's sight. You will also be very competent at killing people and very good at doing it. So you can also put on a great weapon and go in the front lines and hope that your minions are going to be positioned around you perfectly, or do that by yourself. But it's not required. You don't have to do it. Now at level 3 Warlock, you get Pact of the Blade. So at level 3 you get Pact of the Blade. That's important because you can now dump your dexterity and just focus on your charisma. And then charisma, constitution, and you have everything you need. So you don't have to go mad with your abilities. Mad means multiple ability distribution score. Okay, so get whatever spells you want. You can change them at any time. Feel free to play around with them. And then you max your charisma. Now we drop probably the strength to 8, dexterity to 14, and I would put some points in wisdom and intelligence. Okay, Deepened Pact, you would get extra attack here. If you don't have the circlet that will give you Animate Dead spell, then you have to take a level in Wizard at this point. Or you're going to be learning using scrolls to learn the spell Animate Dead and cast it with your 3rd level spell slots. So let's take another level in Warlock, and that would give you an extra attack with your Pact weapon. Yeah, you would pick some spells here. I like Murder Mind, but Repelling Blast would be very fun to play with, pushing your enemies away from you. Especially since you're going to be using Charisma now for all your weapon attacks. So now you're going to be using, if you're going to be using a weapon, you're going to be banding it, and it's going to be using your Charisma instead of Strength. Our strength is pretty low, but our Charisma is 20, so that's good. And again, since you're not gonna have to spend points on anything else, you can focus on maxing your charisma. because now you don't need dexterity and you don't need con, and you have Eldritch Blast, so you don't even need arrows. You can just throw 3 Eldritch Blasts reliably every turn and also push your enemies away. As you can see, he was pushed away. So yeah, this is gonna be the build, and then to fight, you're actually gonna be casting Animate Dead, and your allies will, and also you will be using scrolls to summon more creatures. If you take a level in Wizard, you can also get the Find Familiar spell. Also, there are some gloves in the game that allow you to summon the Raven. You get those in a Raven. You get those in Act 2. So, Scrolls, Animate Dead, and Raven. This is how the Paladin works. It's gonna be the only person in the party that actually uses scrolls for their summons sometimes, and that's if you want to get the maximum amount of summons you can. Alternatively, you only get a few summons, like 2 or 3, and you're only gonna get 2 summons, like 2 or 3. If you don't want to go Pact of the Blade, remember, if you didn't take the circlet that we talked about, you're gonna have to go a level in Wizard and start learning learn Animate Dead from scrolls. So keep that in mind. Alternatively, guys, if you do find the Circle of Bones, you can choose to forego going Pact of the Blade and lose the extra attack, but you can get an extra Find Familiar, and you can go 5 levels of Warlock, and the Familiar will also get an extra attack, which is gonna get boosted by your Aura of Hatred. So we summon our Familiar, we use the Amulet of Bones to create undead, and then we use 2 scrolls, one to conjure minor elementals and the other to conjure elemental. When you cast minor elementals, you get 2 summons. When you cast major elemental, you get 1. So in that way, you will have 5 summons and the Aura of Hate buffing all of the summons of your allies. That's the build, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed the series so far. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you around.